Hi, I'm Courtney with Bonneville Mill, and we are going to prepare some mush. This is kind of a 2-day process because mush, the way that I like it, is to prepare it the first day, put it into a pan, and then on the day after, you will get that pan of mush out. You'll slice it into pieces, and then you will fry it. You can also bake it, which I have done that at home as well. So this is a little bit more extensive recipe. You're going to have to spend a little bit more time with the overnight in order to make it fried mush the next day. The recipe itself is actually very simple, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I have gathered together the items that we're going to need in order to prepare the fried mush. So you're going to need a pan, and I've got a stock pot here. You can use any kind of pot, but it's going to have to be able to accommodate about 6 cups of water and 3 cups of cornmeal. So you want to keep that in mind. I've got a nice big whisk. We're going to use this in the stirring of the cornmeal. We have a bread pan. We're going to actually pour the mush into the bread pan, and then it's going to harden overnight. I have a plate scraper and some spray grease, any kind that you prefer. I've got a 1 cup measuring cup, and I have a 1 tablespoon and a half a teaspoon. I have a second measuring cup. The items that we're going to need as far as food goes, I have salt here, and I have sugar, and of course cornmeal, and then we are also going to need water. So the water is going to have to be the first thing that we get. So we're going to go ahead and we'll measure up some water. I have 4 cups of water that I have measured into my stock pot here, and I have an additional 2 cups right here. So we're going to go ahead and pour the 2 cups into the stock pot, and now we're going to measure some salt into the pot too. So you're going to want about a half of a teaspoon of salt in there. And we're going to take the stock pot now. At this point, we're going to move it over onto the stove and go ahead and put that onto a high heat. And we're going to want to get that boiling. Okay, we're going to get the cornmeal ready to go into the boiling water. We've got the water on the heat, and it's still on its way to boiling, so we're not quite ready for that yet. But I did want to get my cornmeal measured up. This is Bonneville cornmeal, and you can use whatever cornmeal that you like. Bonneville cornmeal, of course, is the best. We offer a couple of different grades of cornmeal at Bonneville. We have the regular sifted cornmeal or the unsifted or unbolted cornmeal, and I have a number of customers that prefer that style of cornmeal. It makes it a little chunkier. It gives you a little bit more substance in your food. We've got the regular sifted cornmeal here, and I've got in this measuring cup, I've got 2 cups measured in. We're going to go ahead and put a tablespoon of just regular sugar into that. If you do not want to put the extra sugar in, you do not have to do that. It's just for a little bit of flavor, and it really doesn't make any difference whether you do that or not. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 3rd cup of cornmeal into this larger measuring cup. And as soon as our water gets up to boil, all right, I've moved over to the stove, and our water has started to boil now. So we're ready to go ahead and add the cornmeal to that water. I've got my cornmeal here, 3 cups into 6 cups of boiling water, and I do have also a half a teaspoon of salt in the water right now, and I have a tablespoon of sugar in the cornmeal. Now, when you add this, you're going to want to have a whisk, and I've got a fairly good-sized whisk here. It will thicken very quickly, so you want something that's going to be fairly sturdy in order to stir this. But as you add the cornmeal, you're going to want to whisk it pretty aggressively. The problem is that if you don't whisk it, and if you add the cornmeal too quickly, it's going to be very, very lumpy and chunky. So, go ahead and get ready and start adding it gradually while you're whisking all the time. And that went in a little quicker than I'd liked, but we're going to aggressively whisk here. And we're going to turn the heat down to about low. I'm kind of used to having a gas stove, which is what I have at home. And when you turn it to low, it's immediately on low. But this is an electric stove, so whatever you're used to, whatever you got at home, will work. You want to go ahead and whisk that and cook that for about a minute. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn the heat off and remove it from the heat. And if you look here, it has thickened. So, at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of spray grease and go ahead and spray my bread pan so that it comes out nice and easily when we're ready for it. I'm going to go ahead and kind of pour what's in here into the bread pan. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put my pan in the sink, and this is what you want to see right here. This is the bread pan. I've put the thickened mush into the bread pan, and it's going to be ready to cool now. So we're going to let it set out for a couple of hours, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and take the bread pan and put it in the refrigerator overnight. So when we come back, it will be tomorrow morning, and we're going to be ready to take our mush out of this pan, slice it, and fry it or bake it, whichever you prefer. So we'll be back with you tomorrow to finish up this recipe of fried mush. Okay, we're here with the day 2 of the cornmeal mush, and today we're going to dump the mush out of the pan, and we're going to fry it up and get it ready to eat. So if you look here, you can see our pan has the mush in it, and I will have to admit that me and Brandon had to test it out already, and so half of it's gone, but we'll just imagine that the whole pan is filled just like it was yesterday. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and dump it. And at this point, you're going to want to slice it into pieces. I like to make mine kind of thick. Now it's up to you whether you want to make thick slices or if you want to make thin slices. I like my mush fried very crispy on the outside, and I like it very smooth on the inside. So you just make slices to your preference, just like this. And once you've sliced it up, you're going to grease your griddle, whatever you're cooking it on. Once again, it can also be baked. You're still going to want to grease your pan when you bake it. It takes a little bit longer to do the baking than it does to do the frying. So we're going to lay the mush on the griddle. And at this point, I'm going to want to cook it for at least a good 15-20 minutes on each side. Because like I said, my preference with the mush is to have it very crispy, very crunchy on the outside, and very nice and smooth on the inside. Alright, we've been cooking on one side for about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes almost. So we've got, just to let you know, I've got my temperature on my griddle set at about 350. So you don't want it too hot. You don't want to scorch it or anything, but you want a good hot griddle. Let's go ahead and flip one and see what it's starting to look like here. Okay, you can see this is starting to brown a little bit, and that's the way you're going to want it. That's going to make it nice and crispy on the outside. There's a real thick one right there. Oh, that one's looking real nice. Alright, so we've got them all flipped. Starting to look nice and browned on one side. We're going to go ahead and let them cook on the other side. And after they've been on for a while, it'll be time to take them off and get ready to eat. Okay, we are ready to take some of this off and start getting ready to eat. And so we'll go ahead and scoop this. We'll take a look at it on the other side just to make sure it's browned. Yep, starting to brown a little bit there. And so we're going to take 2 pieces. Now, just a note, cornmeal mush, as far as food goes, is a very heavy, dense food. So it's not going to take too much in a serving. So 2 pieces is probably more than adequate for most people. Now, I prefer to use real butter on mine, and I'm going to grab myself a knife here. So we'll get a little bit of real butter here. A little pat on each piece. And it should be nice and warm, so the butter should melt nicely into the mush. And we're going to use pure Indiana maple syrup to top it off with. It's up to you what you want to put on it. Other things that are good on cornmeal mush are honey, and sorghum is also a good choice for cornmeal mush. So a little bit of pure maple syrup on here. And that is all topped off and ready to go. So we're ready to eat. Just a note to kind of deal with the times that we're in right now. I prepared this mush for my personal consumption. And so I did not wear extra protective gear. If you are preparing mush for people that are outside of your family unit or whatnot, you're probably going to want to use gloves, mask, etc. Just to make sure that things are safe for everybody. So it's time to get down to eating.